Over 50. Ancient Tibetan breathing technique. Activate your body's healing power. Most people are shocked to learn that certain high-altitude communities in the Tibetan region have relied on slow, rhythmic breathing rituals for centuries, not as medical cures, but as deeply rooted cultural practices to steady the mind and calm the body during harsh climates and long spiritual routines. It is fascinating how something as simple as breath, a function we often ignore, can become a powerful anchor when guided with intention, rhythm, and awareness. Today's exploration dives into one of these ancient Tibetan-inspired breathing patterns, known for helping practitioners feel centered, grounded, and revitalized, especially for those navigating the transformations that come with being over 50. And while it is not a miracle or a medical method, it offers something surprisingly rare in modern life: a moment where the mind, breath, and body unite in quiet focus. Settle in, because this simple technique carries a depth that most people never knew existed. The ancient Tibetan breathing concept. This Tibetan-inspired breathing concept comes from traditions built around endurance, meditation, and adapting to the thin, cold mountain air, where villagers and monks naturally developed rhythmic breathing to maintain warmth, clarity, and calmness. What makes it so captivating is not a mystical promise, but the practical wisdom of a rhythm that slowly steadies the nervous system and helps settle scattered thoughts after a stressful day. The pattern encourages long, intentional inhales, followed by slow, mindful releases that create a feeling of expansion and grounding at the same time. People who practice it often describe a quiet internal shift, almost like dust finally settling in a busy room, allowing thoughts to flow more clearly. It is less about discovery and more about returning to something simple, old, and effective at creating calm in a world full of noise. How the rhythm feels when practiced. The rhythm itself feels almost hypnotic once settled into, similar to the gentle pulse of distant temple bells or the slow flickering of butter lamps during dusk ceremonies. With each inhale, the body feels as if it is gathering warmth from deep within, and with each exhale, there is a sensation of release, like letting go of tightness carried unconsciously throughout the day. People over 50 often find that the slow pace of the technique syncs naturally with the body's changing rhythms, offering a moment where tension softens without forcing anything. It does not require flexibility, strength, or prior training. It only asks for presence and patience. Over time, the rhythm becomes familiar, comforting, almost like greeting an old friend. Why the technique endures? Through generations. The reason this breathing pattern has lasted through generations is because it asks for nothing more than quiet attention, yet offers a feeling of balance that is hard to replicate with modern distractions. Tibetan practitioners often pair it with visualizations, imagining cool air entering with clarity and warm air leaving with calm. But even without imagery, the rhythm stands strong on its own. There is something timeless about practices passed down through oral tradition, especially ones shaped by a landscape as demanding and beautiful as the Himalayas. Many people describe that the longer they engage with it, the more they appreciate how grounding a simple ritual can be. And in an age where everything moves too quickly, rituals like this feel strangely essential. A gentle guide into the breath pattern. Beginning. The pattern feels like easing into warm water, slow, deliberate, and unhurried. The inhale extends just slightly longer than usual, creating a subtle stretch inside the chest, followed by a smooth pause that feels like a moment suspended in time. The exhale is drawn out like a long sigh, soft and steady, releasing air at a pace that seems to quiet the internal chatter. Practitioners often close their eyes not for drama, but to feel the breath more honestly, as if tuning out the outside world enhances the sound and sensation of each cycle. With enough repetition, the breath forms a loop that feels natural and self-sustaining, almost meditative in its simplicity. The cultural significance behind the ritual. In Tibetan communities, breath has always symbolized life force, presence, and connection, an invisible bridge between the physical and the spiritual. While the modern world often treats breathing as something automatic and uninteresting, these traditions elevate it into an act of choice and awareness. The practice is often performed at dawn or dusk, when the soft light makes the mountains glow in muted colors, creating a perfect backdrop for quiet reflection. There is a cultural understanding that breath shapes inner stillness, and inner stillness shapes how one moves through the world. This perspective is what gives the technique its depth, far beyond its simplicity. How this technique fits into life over 50. For individuals navigating life beyond 50, this breathing ritual becomes less about tradition and more about creating a personal moment to reset, especially in a phase where the mind often seeks clarity and emotional balance more than constant activity. The technique encourages slowing down, tuning in, and reconnecting with body sensations that may have been overlooked during earlier fast-paced chapters of life. Many find that the practice gives them a predictable anchor, something that remains steady even as routines, responsibilities, or energy levels shift. It is neither strenuous nor demanding, which makes it accessible regardless of physical ability, while still offering a meaningful experience of presence. Why people report feeling more centered afterward. People often say that after a session, the world feels a little quieter, conversations feel a little clearer, and tensions that previously felt overwhelming shrink down to manageable size. The breath pattern seems to soften mental clutter, allowing focus to return naturally, not through force but through gentle realignment. Even though the technique is simple, the atmosphere it creates, calm, intentional, and grounded, helps people return to their daily lives feeling refreshed. It is not a cure or a miracle, but rather a moment where everything slows down long enough for the mind to catch up with the body. And sometimes, that alone feels extraordinary. How the mind responds to repetition and stillness. What makes this breathing ritual even more intriguing is how repetition gradually shifts the mind into a calmer, more observant state, almost the way gentle waves eventually smooth the shoreline. With each cycle, the mind stops wrestling for control and begins to follow the steady rhythm without resistance, creating a sensation that feels both grounding and expansive at the same time. People often describe this as a soft mental reset, where scattered thoughts begin lining up naturally instead of competing for attention. The stillness that emerges is not forced, but something that slowly reveals itself as the breath deepens and the body settles. It is this effortless transition, from noise to quiet, from tension to ease, that keeps the technique alive across generations, offering a peaceful pause in a world that rarely allows one. If this Tibetan-inspired breathing technique sparked your curiosity, take a moment later, today, to try just a few slow inhales and exhales. You might be surprised by how quickly the body responds to intentional stillness. Share your thoughts below about your experience with calming practices or rituals you enjoy. And make sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into ancient traditions, simple daily practices, and the fascinating ways humans around the world find balance in everyday life. More explorations are on the way, each offering another quiet window into timeless tools for grounding and clarity.